The wonderful world of Aliens is back, with developer Cold Iron Studios having shown off Aliens Fireteam in a new trailer. Having drawn on all of my expert analytical skills, I have decided that the game is going to be good. Alright, sure, I'll commit to that for no reason. It's going to be good. I mean, at this point, predicting the future of Fireteam may as well come down to just a roll of the dice. From an initial look at the game, it does seem solid, if a little generic. Internet commenters are quick to point out the similarities to Left 4 Dead, and Reddit is pretty much convinced that Fireteam is too generic to be of merit. Here's the thing though. I suspect that the game's, yes, incredibly safe design is not only a deliberate move, I get the feeling it might just save the franchise. First things first, when I say franchise, bear in mind I'm talking about the Aliens franchise and not the Alien franchise. Gaming has long separated its alien horror games from its alien shooters, with good reason. There's a big difference between cowering behind grates and shooting waves of alien xenomorphs. Or is it xenomorphs? Oh, it doesn't matter, I'm going to get comments either way. I don't think that there is a single media outlet that, in covering the new game, hasn't made an obligatory reference to the oft-maligned Aliens Colonial Marines. That game famously looked solid before release, before becoming a surprisingly enduring go-to example of a rushed, incomplete movie tie-in game. Obviously, Fireteam will release in the shadow of this previous game. Obviously, the two will be compared. Except, one thing that often gets lost in the discussion of Colonial Marines is just how financially successful the game turned out to be. It made so much money. The game sold 1.3 million copies in its first year, making it publisher Sega's second biggest release of 2013, after Sonic and his annoying friends racing Transformed. Please don't hate me, Sega fans, that was just a joke. I actually have an Alex Kidd tattoo, would you like to see it? You would? Oh, well, that was a lie, but please don't hate me anyway. The phenomenal sales figures for Colonial Marines is a large part of why the game ended up becoming the poster boy for shallow cash grabs. But it's also likely the reason why we're getting another Aliens game at all. The new studio, Cold Iron, is something of a wild card. They're brand new, and Aliens Fireteam is their first release ever. That said, the studio's founders previously worked for Cryptic on the MMO Star Trek Online, and from here we see a pattern emerging. As with Star Trek Online, Aliens Fireteam appears to be a perfectly functional, if cautious game in an established genre that's based on a household name science fiction brand. The goal here isn't to reinvent the wheel or create the next big thing in gaming. The studio can succeed on brand recognition alone, and if Colonial Marines is any indicator, their game doesn't even need to be any good to sell. The challenge comes from trying to establish Fireteam as a long-term source of revenue. While Cold Iron have stated that they're not relying on a games-as-service model, it's clear from the inclusion of cosmetics that the studio plans to eke things out with a cavalcade of DLC. I like that word, by the way. Cavalcade. Cavalcade. Just sounds fun. Of course, to get to DLC, and to ensure that potential players aren't completely put off the Aliens franchise forever, Cold Steel have got to deliver something that is, at the very least, actually playable. This, I suspect, is the reason why Fireteam may look a little formulaic, if you catch my drift. There'll be plenty of time to expand the game's scope after release. For now, the goal is to simply deliver on that most basic of project briefs, make an Aliens game that looks the part and is fun to play. There's no sense overcomplicating things on a new studio's first project, especially when working with a brand that clearly sells but that's also infamous for its previous lackluster video games. I can't help but think of a similar game from a long time in the past, Star Wars Republic Commando, which just so happens to be re-releasing on the Nintendo Switch next month. Republic Commando is a gritty, sometimes tense, team-based shooter set in a beloved established sci-fi movie universe. Yes, it's single player instead of multiplayer, but even so it has a lot in common with Fireteam. Republic Commando is, with the best will in the world, derivative. It's a fairly generic sci-fi shooter, which while perfectly functional, hasn't exactly been remembered as the best game of its era. It's not even remembered as the best Star Wars game of the year it was released, as it came out just 6 months before the OG Battlefront 2. But while Republic Commando may not be the most original game ever released, it's undeniably solid. Enough even to warrant re-release 16 years after its initial debut. Personally, while it's not my favourite Star Wars game ever made, that bar is set fairly high, I had fun with it, even though I'm atrocious at first-person shooters and have the hand-eye coordination of a 6-year-old with their eyes closed. Sometimes all people want is the opportunity to experience a familiar world and feel like they're part of their favourite movies. If Cold Iron can begin by making Aliens Fireteam a playable, decently enjoyable shooter that just happens to be wearing the skin of a xenomorph, then they can actually start to establish the Aliens gaming brand. After several decades of disappointment and false hope, Aliens fans might finally get their chance to enjoy a cavalcade of gaming content. No, it's fine, that felt forced, I know it, I just like the word. I'm not normally a fan of adequate games. I'd rather see a big swing and a miss in most cases. In this instance though, I don't know. I'm willing to assume that the developers at Cold Iron have hidden some tricks up their sleeve. Or perhaps I'm just wrong. After all, as I say, at this point it is just a roll of the dice. Why don't you hit the subscribe button so that you can come back in 6 months and mock me for being wrong about Aliens Fireteam? Go on, you know you want the satisfaction.